Welcome everyone, Adam the Woo here. Today's adventure begins with the St. Cloud, Florida water tower, and I am embarking on a road trip that I wanted to do for many years. Kind of a trip through nostalgia, through not only my youth, but also a special guest. It's going to be tagging along my father, my dad, right here. It's going to be interesting. We have never done, I was thinking about this, we have never done a road trip, you and I together. We've done family trips, me, my mom, my sister, and you. But you and I have never done a proper, lengthy road trip together.
This will be a first.
So what we're going to do is just go around to places that you used to preach at, where I grew up, where places you worked, places that we just kind of have memories at.
Right.
Where are we at now? Where are we starting off at?
This is the congregation that I last preached at. It ministered here until 1999. This is now a Spanish congregation that meets here. They purchased the building and the property from the congregation, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after I left.
We moved here in 91, correct? 1991.
91, and then I resigned in 99, July of 99.
And this was First Christian Church.
It was.
And I'm recalling a time when a tornado went through here and kind of destroyed part of the awning. Now this, I think they fixed it since then, but this reminds me, if you step back, you'll see there's a little bit of a tear there in the roof, and they repainted it. I got some screen captures here of photos. We went through some family photo albums, and this is what it looked like. I don't know if I took this or if you took this or mom took this, but this is what it looked like. You could see what it was back in the early 90s as well.
Yep.
And it was a school for a while.
This was the main sanctuary. This is where we worshiped. And there's a building, one-story building over here. This was the educational building, and that's where we had the school during the week. What they've done, the congregation actually inverted that. They have their worship center now over here, and I think they use the older building here for their youth.
Oh, so this is where they have their Sunday services.
Yes.
In here. I wonder if we could peek in the window and see what
Can you read that sign?
This sign here says Iglesia de Dios Pentecostal MI. So it's a Pentecostal congregation.
It's Pentecostal Church of God.
Pentecostal Church of God.
And the Buena... can't read it. That last word down there means welcome.
Buenavidos.
There you
Buenavidos?
go.
Buenavidos.
Buena Benitas. Remember when they gave us a tour?
We did come by here. We didn't document it. I didn't film any of it, but
right. Years
and years ago, stopped by, and one of the folks here let us in, walk around. This was the sanctuary. And there was, we might be able to see it around the back though, but there's a stained glass window behind.
They've got it covered up if it still exists.
And then remember the alcove over there to the side?
Uh-huh.
That little section, when you were up there preaching, you'd always say, those in the alcove,
Yeah,
which was that little section over there, that little,
past the post,
over to the right.
past those two pillars.
I don't know why that just came back to my mind. You always talk about the alcove. They've redone the floor as well and removed the pews.
Yep.
So that was 31 years ago when we first moved here. We moved here from Oklahoma. And this road trip we're doing, we're going to be going to a lot of those spots in no particular order. It will not be in order of, continuation of timeline. We're going to be all over the place and just kind of going where the wind blows, but we do have some specific spots in mind.
So 91 to 99 we were here.
8 years.
Yep. I still see the reflection of the glass. That's the glass of the baptistry. That covering thing is covering up the opening of the baptistry there.
It just looks like you're looking at your own reflection.
Oh.
Just notice it is their 20th anniversary, so this congregation took over this property back in 2001. Now, back in the day, there used to be some handprints back here.
I think we got
And
your sister's name is back
I think my sister, her name is embedded for posterity. You know, I say the word posterity a lot.
Yep.
Here's an interesting fact.
Here you go.
Oh, wow, look. Right there.
1992.
1992. Faith, it's my sister's name. I wonder if she did this. This is like a rendition of herself there. That might be.
Maybe.
She says smile. Now see, this is where, see, I kind of was drawing a blank because I thought it was
I
around
think there's another one around
the
here.
back. But I always say this is for posterity. And, spoiler alert, I got that phrase from you in Oklahoma. We were playing basketball, and down the road on this road trip, we are going to be, spoiler alert, we're going to be going to Oklahoma on this, and we'll go by the basketball court. We're doing a home video, and you said the phrase, this was for posterity. And it's always stuck with me. Yeah, see, all these are here from the early 90s. And these are all ones that went to the school here for a short while. A very short while. Is there another one back here?
Pretty sure.
Now, a lot of these names I do recognize. You know, friends of my sister.
Okay.
But I think I was mistaken. Oh, here says Adam.
That's from Adam West.
Oh, Adam West? Batman? Batman was here? On that corner, behind this fence, was... Now, was this a parsonage, or was it just
Yes.
a place we rented? So
No, this was a parsonage.
explain what a parsonage is.
Parsonage is an old word back in the day when preachers were called parsons. And a parsonage was where the church provided a house for them to live in. A parsonage, that word still is used a lot.
Okay, I never realized what that meant. I've said that word 100 times and never knew the backstory on it.
And then when we left, I'm not sure if the next minister lived there or not, but the church has since sold the property. That's not church property.
It's just a personal residence now.
Right, exactly.
But we lived there for the whole tenure, basically, of your... And here's the stained glass window I was mentioning. You can see it from the back. Many, many hours I would stare at this from the opposite direction of me
from the congregation.
in the alcove in a church pew,
Yeah.
which most churches don't even use pews anymore. That's kind of a...
Yep, chairs.
That's an old school thing.
Yeah,
Chairs now.
it's true.
But yeah, I remember this very vividly. You know, you got to flip it around the other way.
This was the door.
This led up to the baptistry.
This went into the baptistry area that you're pointing out there with the stained glass window. Also the choir loft. That's a word you don't hear much anymore
The
either.
choir.
Choir loft. Now we have stages with spotlights and worship teams. But back in the day, we had a choir. And the choir sat in the choir loft, sang, and so
With an
forth.
organist and a pianist.
And this was the door that went into a side room, and there's another door that went out into that alcove area. Okay, this was the church van, son. You may or may not remember that when we were here. And this was
The awning that was here.
it was the carport, if you will,
Okay.
where we parked the van. School van. Your mom used to drive
Drive the bus.
the school bus for the school. Notice there's no there's no carport here.
What happened to the carport, Dad?
Your mom ran over the carport. She pulled in. I don't remember which pillar she hit, but one of these pillars, and it took it down.
So there it is. At least we have the photograph.
Yeah. Oh God.
Wow.
I had forgotten about that until I saw this.
And there used to be, for a short while, there was a home here, and there was also a basketball court right in this section,
God, the basketball court was here.
right here, and
There used to be no fence.
there was no fence.
And the school kids, this was their playground.
This was you're right, before the house was built,
That's right.
there was a playground, a basketball court, and I would come out here and play basketball.
And you played basketball at night irritated the heck out of me because everybody around us is trying to sleep. And there you were out there with a couple of your buddies out there hooping and hollering and shooting basketballs and everything.
I think we have a photograph in there of the basketballs.
That's Adam.
me.
Adam before he became the Woo.
See, I played basketball. I like juggling.
That's
and
right.
I like Bo Jackson.
There you go.
That was my hero, Bo Jackson. Okay, there's the front of the house. We'll walk over there in a second.
I thought we had a picture of you.
There's the front of the church, which we've already shown. So
I thought we had a basketball shot.
We got a. That's.
The bear is getting out of the cage over there.
Now there's.
Well, I thought we
Okay.
had a basketball shot.
We do have one. It might be
Must be
right
back
after
in the car.
the Bo knows one there.
No. All right, the younger eyes of my son found the picture. It wasn't. I couldn't pull it up.
There you go. That is proving that the van was
Used
parked
to park.
right here,
That's right.
right underneath there. And that look on my face while I'm dunking a miniature soccer ball is probably the expression Mom had on her face when she
She
took
smashed-
out this.
Carport.
I thought I was so cool. Looking back on it, I thought I was jumping about 8 feet in the air. It's about 6 inches. And I couldn't even dunk a full size. And I think this wasn't even like regulation.
It's not
10
even
feet.
a 10-foot goal. No, it was more like an 8-foot goal.
But there, as you can see the windows here of the building. That's this building right over here. Yeah, right over in that section.
I see the rusty shed. The rusty shed.
The rusty shed, I see.
That's the shed.
Oh, no kidding. You are right.
Yep.
Wow, good eye. Want to walk around to the front?
Actually, I just see something else. This is not the fence. There's a second fence.
So they have built a secondary fence. I think the shed has been moved.
That's
The shed might have been back just a little bit.
Yeah.
There's our shadows. And over here also, we have a photograph of my first car. It was a Ford LTD, and it was parked right over in this little grassy section. My first car.
This one?
That's the one, right there. I think there's actually another photo in there of it, but it was like a more
let's see if the
close-up
old
version.
man can find
And
it.
it was painted gray, and I eventually got it painted. I think I got it painted like dark or black color. I can't remember what I think I did. I got it painted, and then I got in a wreck, and it had a white door on it. There's the station wagon. Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, I got it painted black, and then I had a white door.
Yeah.
And there's the station wagon,
That's
and
our wagon, yeah.
that home
That's
is
the
right
house.
over there.
It's across the street.
And the youth minister home was over here, and that has been demolished. But the shed is still right there.
And we used to store stuff in that shed.
Right there, yeah.
How about that? I'd forgotten that.
See, it's all coming back to us now. The sun is just now
And
rising.
that building yonder,
The yonder building
not this building where the
down the alley.
where the carport used to be, but the second gray building, that extension. That's the back portion of that education building I was telling you about.
Okay, right.
That's
right.
where the kitchen was for the church
for the congregation
and
meals.
for the school.
What is
Yeah,
it? A fellowship meal,
there you go.
they called it.
Yep.
Fellowship meal. And sometimes I would dip out of the service early to go help. Anytime they needed my help to get out of the service early, I would go over there and help
Now we
load
know.
the
That's where you were
chairs.
going.
Help load the chairs.
And remember we had to move those screens, the doors, the walls?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And my attempts at being young and youthful, I would grab as many of the metal folding chairs as possible. So you wouldn't just carry one in each hand, you carry 7 on either hand. Just kind of show off for everyone. Look, I'm carrying 12 chairs.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the day, my arms would hurt. On the corner of 192 and this little establishment over here used to be a baseball card shop that I used to visit a lot. I think the guys that worked in there probably got sick of me going in there, but I would walk over to that baseball card shop. And there's a carport here that's been built on, and we're kind of responsible for that as well. Well,
We had it screened in.
now they've actually
Now they put doors
bricked
on
it up.
and got it all dressed up nice.
In the front of the building, let's see you got a picture here of the front. I don't know why my sister's not in. She was taking the picture.
I guess she was.
So there's Mom, there's me, a very thin me, and very
Very
thin
thin.
you and young you.
Yeah.
That is in front of this very building right here. Well, this was our home from Moved here in 91.
Yep.
And then in 99, you guys moved elsewhere in town and have moved other places in town since then. But this was the first place that we moved from Oklahoma to. The parsonage.
You know, when we first moved here, there actually was a house where that shop is right there.
There was. After the basketball court was torn out, they built a house right there.
No.
No?
They tore the house down. That's when the whole place became the playground.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a little hazy on the details.
I get foggy sometimes.
Remembering many times that I pulled my car up here because you had your car, Mom had her car in the driveway, so I would have to park here next to it. And I always recall these little power pole stanchions that hold up, you know, just to keep the poles in place. And the first day we moved here, there was a tornado siren that went off from the water tower, which is located right over here, because my sister and I, both terrified of tornadoes, and moving from Oklahoma, the previous spot we had lived, Mom said, there's not going to be any tornadoes in Florida.
That's what she told me.
First day, that tornado siren.
The U-Haul truck.
The tornado siren. So I'm just showing the bow nose juggling here. I don't think Bo Jackson ever juggled, but just, I was wearing a bow nose shirt. That was right here. There you go. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Where does the time go?
It goes quick.
Very quick. This is first of many spots we're going to be going to. We're going to hit the road, and just to reiterate, there will be no order of the places we're going. It's just kind of, it won't be in chronological order. There's a dump truck going by, but we're going to head northbound, out, starting to make our way out of Florida and just see what the day happens, and drive a few hundred miles each day, stop for the night, and just document the whole experience of myself and my dad. Did I do the join me, shall you? I don't know if I did.
I don't remember you doing that.
I'm inviting
Join me. Shall you? You know, when you said
Nailed it.
hit the road.
Hit the road, Jack.
That's the song I was thinking about. It
Hit the
reminded
road.
me when you and I were riding with your grandpa, your mother's dad.
No, you're gonna say you were in a car. We weren't in the car. I know where that happened. It was in Oklahoma. Commerce, Oklahoma. I might be wrong. You tell the story.
But I said,
Whoa, Jack.
Whoa, Jack. Just a phrase, you know.
Right.
Oh, Jack, like, oh my goodness. Oh, Jack.
And you
his
realize,
name is Jack.
You realize that was
His name.
my grandfather, your wife's husband. Your wife's husband. I knew a man with a wooden leg named Smith.
The other husband.
I spent the best years of my life in the arms of another man's wife, my mother.
I can't remember who it was.
Oh,
Gosh.
all right, let's hit the road. Jack. 1991 seems like a long time ago, but at the same time, it doesn't really seem like that long ago. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned, this is in St. Cloud, Florida. Okay, moving on. Heading out of St. Cloud and northbound. It used to be a little awning between the two buildings that would kind of shield you from the weather. Right there, you can see it's been torn out. I'm gonna drive up and show.
Used to be a flagpole right there by that walk.
Oh, right there in the middle.
Right there, yep.
And the sign, so this is now where the congregation is, and that's where your office was. And the sign for what is now not used anymore is still here. Take a look at this. This has not been used in many, many years, but it used to be from 8 to 8:30 and 2:30 to 3 was the school zone. That sign is a little relic that is no longer utilized.
We could dig that up and it'd be worth something one day.
But that belongs in a museum.
There you go.
Fueling up at the Turkey Lake Service Plaza off the Turnpike, and there is no self-pumping gas mechanisms. I have to hold it with my hand. Current price $2.88 a gallon. And there's a wheelbarrow full of water here. And there is another service plaza just up the road called the Okahumpka Plaza. Stopped at the Turkey Lake one instead. Got a large piping hot caffeinated beverage. Probably needs one of those cardboard things around it. This is a little toasty. Oh my gosh, that's hot. Should also mention that Big the Foot is also tagging along for this road trip adventure. All right, back on the Turnpike, northbound. Veered off the Turnpike and stopped off near the Villages at a place called Brownwood. And keeping up with the theming, they have a cattle guard right here across the road, because this is a cattle drive going through here. So you recognize this from your truck driving days.
I saw this, yeah. They were just building it when I first saw it.
How many years ago do you think that was?
Oh, wow, 10 at least, probably.
Took us a while to find it because this whole area has grown up quite a bit since you recall, but I never knew this existed. Here's a cowboy with a little calf on top of the horse. It's a full-on cattle drive through here. Now there was a sign back there saying, "Stay off the sky." You trying to wrangle it up? There was a sign back there saying, "Do not sit on the cattle." Well, this gentleman's sitting on the cattle. There's a bird up there flying around as well. This is corner of Megason Road and State Road 44. Is there a truck stop nearby that you would stop at here?
Actually, there's 2 or 3 of them up at the interstate. I-4 is just, we're about 6 miles, I guess.
From I-4?
To the west, yeah. And I would stop up there on occasions.
Now, when you were trucking, you couldn't really pull over the truck on the side of the road and see stuff like this.
Down the road this way, and just have to drive by and look at it, and couldn't stop. There was nowhere to stop. Actually, there's really nowhere to stop now. We had to park up the road, up the street there.
Okay, there's a little information placard over here. Let's see what this says. It says, "Carrying the legacy." Brownwood has chosen to, quote, "carry the legacy." Bronze sculptures. I really like the fact that they have the little, cattle guards down there. Sometimes when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you go up on farmland, you will see these cattle guards, so the cattle cannot cross across. Their hooves will not allow them to walk across the cattle guard, and they placed it here too.
A true cattle guard doesn't have anything between the bars. That's what actually keeps the cattle from going across it.
Drove quite a ways off of Highway 90. Old Highway 90 runs parallel to 90, which runs parallel to Interstate 10. Is this placard that says, "The town of Ellaville." Not really a lot out here, but the present Route 90 led through this town of several hundred people. The ruins of the sawmill are on the west bank of the Swanee. Oh, that is confluence with the Swanee River. And this bridge, which you cannot drive down this bridge anymore. They have this barricade. But take a look all the way at the end. Old-timey bridge way down there. Driving by this on that road over there, I assume this was the railroad bridge, because the railroad is right near here as well, but it's not a railroad bridge. It's an old road. No railroad tracks at all. Some pigeons walking around. Very peaceful. Dad's way down there. Pulling up into Lee, Florida. And the title of the town name is Little But Proud. It's a little town. They like it a lot. Kind of like Big the Foot. He's little. He's not a full-size Sasquatch.
But he's proud.
Big the Foot would be proud. And this is the downtown area. Very quaint. Also through this area are lots of flowers that are just randomly growing off the side of the road. Very beautiful. I don't believe they were planted though. They just pop up on their own accord.
Are they petunias?
Are those petunias? It might be. I pulled over here at the Madison, Florida entrance. There is a gas station called the Pit Stop, which brings back memories of my youth. We would go on family road trips. We would pass the pit stop, probably going up to my grandma's in Mississippi. We would probably go through this area where there's a chain of pit stops.
And we made a little song. I made a little song.
You made a little song. You tried
you
to,
and me to sing.
and half the time I wouldn't sing it, and you would just sing it. Well, I would sing it.
Sing it anyway, yeah. And it went something like this. We're going to the pit stop, 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 and we're gonna get some pop, 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 and we're gonna potty, 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 potty.
At the pit stop, at the pit stop. See, I remember it. That's been like 40 years ago.
Prices for gas has changed over that time period too.
Gas back then was not $2.94 a gallon.
It was not.
I always like finding the old advertisements. There's a Coca-Cola. It says, have a Coke. Used to be have a Coke and a smile, right? I think that was like the continuing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see them painted on the side of the brick. That's not painted on. It's actually a piece of wood placed on it, but that shows some age. Up. Chimes. I'm gonna guess this is the county courthouse, Madison County, and there is a silo, a grain silo, in front of the courthouse. You don't see that every day. I've never seen that. Okay, it's a bunch of bicyclists. Hundreds of bicyclists.
And those vehicles we passed in Madison were where they carry the bicycles in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about the bicycle.
So we got about 40 or 50 motorcycles, and then the bicycles behind the motorcycles. Oh yeah, there was a whole crowd of them. I think that was all of them. Oh wait, it's a little... Arrived in Greenville, Florida, home of Ray Charles, musical genius known to the world. Ray Charles R.C. Robinson, but known as Ray Charles, was a native son of Greenville and known by his childhood playmates simply as RC. And you had a fun fact about Greenville, right?
Yeah, when I was driving a truck, I went to a bunch of Greenvilles, and so I did some research. And of the 50 states the town name Greenville is used 33 times. So in 33 of the states is a town Greenville, which makes it the most used name for one town in the U.S.
Because a lot of different states have multiple town names, but Greenville would be the #1 out of all the town names for different states.
Yep.
And one of them just so happens to be
Greenville, Florida.
Greenville, Florida. Home of Ray Charles. And right here in this park is the man himself. Playing the piano here. From what I heard, the home that he lived in was slated for demolition, but it has also been saved, and it's just a few blocks away, so I'm going to swing by there as well. Check that out. After further reading here, well, not further reading, but after reading this plaque, it says it is a reconstruction of the home where musician Ray Charles, 1930 to 2004, lived with his mother, Aretha Williams, and adopted grandmother. So it is not the original house. It is a reconstruction of the home. A fireplace in one of the 4 small rooms provided warmth. Open windows and doors allowed breezes to cool the house. The abandoned house was scheduled for demolition in 2006. The town purchased the structure to preserve it. Okay, that's kind of confusing. Is it? This doesn't look like the original. This looks like it's been fixed up quite a bit. The town completed the reconstruction of the house in 2008. So it is the original foundation. They've just completely reconstructed the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Confused.
You can tell by the roof over the porch. That's a new roof. The metal roofing. But that looks like the original floor and steps. But you post on the platform.
It just fixed it up quite a bit. Decided to go ahead and stop and get some more fuel. This one has a self-pumping nozzle. Gas price here, getting into the Florida Panhandle, $3.09 a gallon. And I went inside, got myself another coffee, and also gonna try something called an ooey gooey butter cake. You ever had an ooey gooey butter cake, Dad?
I have never had an ooey gooey butter cake.
Here's another Coca-Cola emblem, and a grocery, meat, deli, and beer. There's a taco with a sombrero on. Heading towards Panama City. We have just crossed over into Central Time Zone. We just lost an hour. Time travelers.
That's us.
Now passing through Blountstown, M&B Railroad, locomotive 444. Just sitting here along the tracks, M&B 102. All right, Dad, take us back to 1981.
1981. The picture you're looking at is the house we moved into. We took that photograph And that is the house right there that we're looking at here on Cherry Street in Panama City, Florida.
How many months did we live here?
Lived here about 3 months, approximately. And we...
I'm noticing that they have fixed on the far end, the carport section is now flattened as opposed to when you had your car parked under there. They kind of had like a little elevated, but also noticing that the wrought iron fencing that holds up the awning is still there.
You mean the wrought iron posts?
The wrought iron posts.
Yep, they're still there.
As well as looking down Cherry Street. Cherry Street or Cherry Ave?
Cherry Street.
Cherry Street, which I thought it was dirt, but you said it was paved, just like a lot of dirt over it. The same amount of power poles are still down there. So if you look back at the photo of the house and you look at the power poles and that store at the end, 3 months we lived here? I would have been 8 years old. 8 or 9, I've been 9 years old.
We got a picture up here.
Now where do we live before here and after here?
Before we moved here in 1981, we lived in Leroy, Illinois, which will be one of the last places we'll get to visit on this trip. And then when we left from here, we moved to Pensacola, Florida, which we'll probably get to tomorrow.
One thing I'm also noticing is the wrought iron, I keep saying wrought iron, but the chain link fence over there with a topper that is very distinct. You'll notice that in the photograph that you took from the road. There is that chain link fence with that topper that is very distinct with the mailbox and the post over there. New paint job though, it is now painted beige. Another interesting thing that happened in this, when we moved in, I hurt myself.
That's right.
On a pole. It was the
bottom of a clothing rack.
A clothing rack was in the yard and we were moving in. I stepped on it and the clothing rack flipped up and hit me below the eye.
Right below your left eye.
And I had a scar there for many, many, many years. And it happened right there in front of that front door. It was pretty painful. I do recall that. Even at 9 years old, I can remember back to that happening. We were only here 3 months.
Yep.
Here on Cherry Street, or Cherry Lane, Cherry Ave.
Cherry Street.
Is it Cherry Street?
Yeah.
There it is.
That's cool. That is so cool. Okay, we're coming up on the same house from a different angle. And
This is an abandoned one. It looks similar to
we thought this might have been it, but it's not.
You notice a lot of these houses on the street are abandoned. Like this one here is abandoned. This car's just sitting desolate. And you can see this broken out glass.
Yeah. And I think this may have been where our landlord lived, because they lived right next to us, or one door down. Looks like this was right next to us. And you'll notice the step up to the front door. We had to step up to their front door to go in their house. Well, that's what I think this was our landlord's house. And then this is the Cherry Street house that we lived in. Not sure anybody's here, except that car does look like somebody might be.
And it's the same green step up to the door. The same green step up that's in the photograph.
In the photograph, yeah.
And I hate to keep reiterating myself, but there's those
wrought
iron pieces.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
All right, what's the next spot here in Panama City?
All right, now we're going to go over to the church that we attended for a brief time while we were living here, over on the other side of town.
Real quick, like before heading out, the top of that metal piece is gone, but the middle S is still over there.
The design inside the wrought iron there. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me zoom in. Look at that.
That's amazing.
After how many years? 81. 40 years ago.
Wow.
All right.
She's still as beautiful as ever. My wife. Your mom.
She's definitely going to enjoy watching these videos.
Yep.
Should also mention a story about my mom. She always describes, over the years, I've always heard her tell stories of me and her walking to the store to get food and stuff, and she never liked the smell of the paper mill that was down the road. And when we pulled into this neighborhood, I could smell the paper mill, or at least a mill of some sort.
Yep.
The stories are true.
They are. Something else I remember about this house, son, is that after we'd been there, I don't know, maybe a month or so, the carpet smelled like dog mess. And your mom just kept complaining. So we went over to the landlord's house and asked them if we could rip the carpet out. So one night, your mom and I ripped out all the carpet in the house so it wouldn't stink, smell like a dog urine. And then when we finally moved out, when we did move over to Pensacola, they wouldn't give us our security deposit back because we ripped the carpet out of the house. Oh gosh, what an experience.
Now, according to that billboard up there, it says the building has been sold with an exclamation point.
In 1981, the sidewalk
It was just this front portion.
Okay, in 1981,
This was an add-on.
this probably from here over is an add-on because we parked the U-Haul truck right at the back door here so we could plug in our refrigerator and freezer
Before moving into the house over on
before we
Cherry.
moved into the house on Cherry Street. Yeah, exactly.
So you had the refrigerator in the back of the U-Haul?
Right at the back door of the U-Haul, yeah.
And why were you plugging the refrigerator in? Just to keep the food?
We had all the food in the refrigerator and the freezer, and it kept pretty good for a day or two while we were actually on the road. But then when we get somewhere, we would plug it in and keep it cool so it didn't spoil.
You backed it up here, plugged it in. They built, concrete here, or the cinder blocks.
The back door was somewhere around in here.
It has been gutted out.
Sure is.
Now you parked the U-Haul here because had we not moved in that house yet?
No, we didn't move in the house. We stayed about maybe 4 or 5 days in a motel on the beach while the U-Haul was parked here, plugged in, while we were looking for a house.
So for 4 or 5 days, the U-Haul was parked right there
Yeah.
with all our stuff.
And then we got the house. Of course, then we moved over and moved everything into the Cherry Street house.
So this is the front entrance, or was the front entrance?
This was the original front entrance to the building.
So the sanctuary was in here? Or the sanctuary was here?
The sanctuary was here. This is where the sanctuary was. Classrooms here.
And from here we went to Pensacola.
Yeah, the goal was to get work here in Panama City, but I never could get any real work. So then I found an opportunity in Pensacola. So we moved over to Pensacola later in '81, in time for your sister to be born in December there in Pensacola at the hospital. I think that's where we used to try to get you to go in the water.
I was afraid of the water.
You didn't like the water when you were young.
So sun is slowly starting to descend. It's 5:30 p.m. With the hour time change, it's 6:30 by driving times. That's gonna do it for today. An eventful trip so far. Day one. A lot of good memories. I'll see you in the next video. The trip will continue. The vlog is over.